Welcome back to Do-It-Myself Garage. In just a little bit here, I'm going to have a tow truck dropping off the Mitsubishi. She died on my way home last night. It was too far from home for me to try to work on it. I have a sneaky suspicion of what it is, but let's see when we get home. We'll diagnose it and see if we can figure it out. I'm just going to have them drop it right here in the driveway. Yeah, it's a sad sight. Oh, my poor car. Cost me some money to have it brought to the house too, but figured it was cheaper than having the state patrol tow it to some lot somewhere where I couldn't get the dumb thing. Alright, she is safe and in the garage. Just rolled it right off the trailer in there. So let's see if we can figure out what's wrong with this little girl. Try to focus in here as best I can. Okay, codes found. Read codes. Crankshaft position sensor circuit. Now, my understanding is that probably is the timing belt. But I could be wrong. It could just be the crankshaft position sensor, and I might be lucky. It's not the timing belt, so then therefore it's not my whole valve train messed up. Let me do a little bit of research and I'll be back. In order to get this clip off of here, push in really hard on this. I used a screwdriver. Push in on that and this whole thing will slide up out of there. Okay, so I retested this. I am getting 9 volts, 9.5 volts to here. Let me see if that's sufficient or if I have another problem. So I got the cover off of here, so you actually have access in here. There's just 3 bolts that go into the top, and there's a couple of retainers right here. Just pry them out. I think they're supposed to screw out, but mine are, I don't know. I had to pry mine out. At any rate, I got that out of there. Now I've got to get this main pulley off of here. It's just those 4 bolts. Don't worry about the center. It'll come off of there. But in order to do that, I got to get the tension off the belts. So I've got to come up here on top, and down in here I've got to do that main bolt you see there on the outside. That's the jam nut, basically. Take that and then loosen it up, and then the same thing over here for the other belt. Oh boy, it's down in there. Pretty hard to see. But there's another one. Oh, here it is. So the bolt for it is right on the front. The bolt for it's right on the front there. But the jam nut is on the side. Can't really see it from the top. Once you get your hand down in there, you can find it. So you got to break that loose and then loosen this other serpentine belt. Then you're good to go, because one's for the alternator and one's for the main pulley, and they both run around the main pulley, so you have to loosen them both up. All right, so the belts are loose enough. I took the 4 bolts out of the pulley. That should just come off of there now. Give me just a minute and I'll pop him off of there. All right, pulley's off. Now I can take the bolts out of the cover and see what we got going on inside of here. Well, this is not good. I got chunks of stuff falling out of here. I think that's part of that whole tensioner system. The belt is laying in here loose. Timing belt. Yeah. Yeah, not good. I might be in the market for a new car, because usually that wipes out the engine on these things, but we'll see. Maybe I'll give her another try. Let me get the rest of this off of here. I've got a cover up on top I got to loosen. You cannot replace the timing belt without taking the engine off of the frame. There's a you can't fish the belt in there, so there's a frame bolt up here, engine mount, that you have to take loose. And oh boy, this is a bit of a job. If you watch my last video on redoing the timing belt, I mean it's a bit of a job. It's not impossible, but I'm a little concerned now because it actually broke. And that's kind of the worst case scenario on these engines. So I'm going to send a photo into the place that I bought this from. That would be Rock Auto, and say, hey, what happened to my timing belt? You can see the little belt stuck in there too. So that little guy goes, usually that wipes out the timing belt, so it's kind of a chain reaction. Alright, let's get this all apart and out unjammed from in here. Alright, I don't know if you can see that white timing mark there, but she died right at top dead center is where she looks like she failed, which means I should not have damaged any of the valves. I mean, if I'm lucky. So, I'm going to try putting just a new belt set in. A whole new timing set and go from there. Obviously I put the sensor in as well, so let's try it. That's only a couple $100 by the time I get done, and that's cheaper than a new car. Welcome back to Do It Myself Garage. If you follow me on Facebook, you probably noticed a post picturing the belt all bunched up. And know that I got stalled last week on my way home with this car. So the balance belt failed, took out the timing belt. Yeah, it wasn't not a pretty sight. Chunks all over. Anyhow, I ordered a new belt. The plan here is I need to see if there was any damage done. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to disconnect the engine mount. We're going to jack the engine up, fish the belt in there, and I'm going to pull all the plugs, and we're going to see if she has compression on all 4 cylinders. If she does, then I know I'm in the clear. If the engine turns out to be damaged, then we're kind of on a whole new level of seeing how much damage. I'll have to pull the heads, see if it's just valves or if I actually popped holes in the cylinders. So let's get into this and see where we end up. Alright, so I've got my second jack is under there on the oil pan. There's just enough weight on there to take the pressure off of the engine mount. So let's go ahead and get that engine mount crack loose. Alright, these shouldn't be too terribly tight because I just had them out of here a year ago. Yep, they're not stuck or nothing. These are 17 millimeter, in case anybody's wondering. If you don't have a tool set, Harbor Freight has this one on sale once in a while. I think it was $150 plus a certain amount off. It wasn't bad. It was a whole set, and it has 1/4 inch, 3/8, and a 1/2 inch drive ratchets. It's got all these deep well sockets, standard and English, or standard and English, standard and metric. So it's actually a pretty nice set for using around the garage. The set that I have is such a mishmash of tools from over the years, and I've lost stuff and whatnot, so I finally just bought this. Yes, it's not Snap-on, but I'll tell you what, for the garage, this works plenty good. And I suppose I could have thrown my drill and stuff on here, but the worst thing is just these are just long posts. Alright. And yes, you have to take all 3 out. Kind of like a clamshell, I guess. I don't know how you describe it. I don't remember if I have to take this other bolt out. I think I do. I think this other bolt has to come out as well. It's only been a year since I did this. You'd think I'd remember. because these two posts are on the engine mount. And you have to lift this whole thing up off of there. And it's not that tight, but it's not finger loose either. Come on. Oh, so close. You hate it when stuff is loose, but it's not loose. Like, you should be able to turn it, but you can't. I don't do enough work on cars to justify buying one of those real expensive, like a 90-degree head deal. I don't know. Maybe if they have one on sale at Harbor Freight or something. Not a sponsor. They're not a sponsor, but they do have affordable tools. Yes, they're not the greatest, but again, garage mechanic, they're plenty good. All right, this just lifts out of here. Just lifts right off. No big deal. Set him aside. Actually, I probably shouldn't set all that stuff on the engine because I'm going to be cranking this over later to test out the compression. Put some of these bolts back in here. Oh, yeah, these wires, these can't be in the way. I'll have to tie them out of the way when I do my testing. I don't want it to fire. I just want to crank it over and test for the compression. So I'll have to get those out of the way. All right, what else I need to do? That's it, actually. Now I can just get this belt on, this new belt on here. And we're all set to go. I've got my serpentine belts here. Now is a good time to replace these. If you need to replace yours, now's a good time. It's a little easier to get in here. You don't need to take the engine mount loose to replace the serpentine belts, but it certainly is a lot easier with all this stuff out of here anyway. So if you need to replace them, now's a good time. I replaced these about a year ago, about the same time I did the timing belt. So those are still in real good shape. Let me go grab my new timing belt, and then I also want to clean out. There's a whole bunch of crud laying down in here from all the shrapnel. I'm going to clean all that out, and then we'll get this timing belt back on here. Okay, this is for testing purposes only. I'm not going to be putting the balance belt on, and I am going to disconnect all the coils. I'm going to get the timing right, just enough to check to see if there is if I have compression, because that's the big question. If I don't have compression, we're on a different path. So this notch is at the top already, so I'm good here. The reason you have to take this engine mount off is because the belt goes around this this mount, and that's the only way you can get it on there. So that's why you have to take the engine mount loose. And as you saw, when I took it off, I mean, the engine didn't move. Like I said, put just enough weight on there just to keep it from moving, get it in and out, and it's no big deal. I'm jacked up right on the engine oil pan. And yeah, that's how it's recommended to do. Alright, let's go down the bottom and get all that junk cleaned out of there before I put this belt in the slots. Don't want anything jamming it up. Alright, so now I've got to get the crankshaft in the right spot also. There's a mark on here. I don't remember where, but there's a mark on here, and you got to get that lined up also. I'm going to have to go look that up real quick again. Alright, I got the coilover plugs out of here. Highly recommend unplugging the last one. Otherwise you'll break the little, it won't break it, but you could lose the spring and stuff out of this thing. So just take that loose, and then everything just lifts out. Now I got to get the spark plugs out of here. It's 15 millimeter. Okay, plug not damaged, so nothing shrapneled off and hit the plug. That looks good. Plug not damaged. Plug not damaged. Plug not damaged. You know, what I don't own is a scope. Would be really nice to be able to see down in there right now, see if I see any holes in the pistons. Let me see if I can see with a flashlight. doubt it, too far to be able to see. So I've got the belt on here. The tensioner is not even on it, but I cranked it over and I have 180 plus PSI on, so much glare here, and my tape on there because my bezel fell off. I have 180 PSI on all 4 cylinders. So no bent valves. All right, I didn't start to show this because I wasn't sure, but I had to take the 2 bolts out here and the 2 bolts out here. You can see one on the top. They won't, those 2 don't come out all the way, but at least get them loose. You got to take this entire, I believe, is it air conditioner? I don't even know what compressor this one is. One of the compressors. It's either power steering or air conditioning. I think that's the power steering. Anyway, in order to get this crankshaft position sensor out of there, you've got to take this pump loose. Don't have to take it out, but you got to get it loose, otherwise you can't fish the wires through. That's a bad design. I wish I'd have got it on video, but I was looking around for my crankshaft position sensor. I knew I bought one. Then I remembered I returned the one to the store because they wanted $80 for it. And I got this cheap one off of Rock Auto. So I went to the mailbox to get it. Come back up to the garage and there's a squirrel sneaking in my garage. I had to get Roxy out here to chase it out. So I just had a little bit of excitement. So anyway, let's get this crankshaft position sensor in there. I've got the old one out. It's got this little bracket on there, and it's got this little retainer here on the little clip on there. I don't know if that's focusing very good. There's a retainer clip on there, so be careful when you take that out so you don't. There you go. Little retainer clip on there. Try not to break that when you take it apart. But you can see the actual sensor itself is completely blown up here. Let me pull the new one out and I'll show you the difference. Alright, looks like it has all the right clips on here. Let's see, the wiring appears to be right. I'll have to take this bracket off of here. It has the clip in the middle, so I guess I don't need to reuse that. There'll probably be no way to reuse it. And you can see that actual sensor part actually got snapped off when everything broke. So I've just got that, get that all fished back down in there. I said I had to loosen this guy up. You don't have to take him out, but loosen him up so you can sneak it out of there, and you'll figure it out. It's pretty hard. That top bolt was probably the hardest one to get loose. Let me show you here. This bolt right here, because this bolt's kind of in the way to get a socket on there, so I had to use a regular wrench. So yeah, not the easiest, but you'll figure it out. Comes apart. I just got to put everything back together. I checked all my pulleys. All the bearings are good on all the pulleys that I'd already replaced. So the new belts came with pulleys, but I'm not going to be using them because I'll just keep them for spares, I guess. Okay, so maybe you can see this a little better now. You can see that shiny spot right there. That's where that pump was connected. So if you don't disconnect that pump and move it out of the, slide it out of the way to over here, then you'll be in trouble. So I've already got that wire pushed into that clip down there. You can see on this side, you can see where it's poked through there. Oh, it focused for a second. Focus, baby. Anyway, she's poked through there and clipped. And I got the rest of the wire hanging down below. We'll get her bolted back in. It fishes. There's like a little slot. Oh, it's hard to show here. There's a little slot in the cover here. There's a little slot in the cover right here where it slides through. It's really hard to show you, but you'll see it when you're in there. There's a little slot that goes through there. So when all that slides back together, it doesn't get pinched. And then the wire comes up, plugs back in here. I'll just have it tucked out of the way here for right now, so when I put the pump back in place that it doesn't mess it up. I have this stuff just tied out of the way for when I was cranking to do the compression test. So I've got everything back to where it should be. I've got this piece on top dead center. Got the other pieces. You can look up diagrams online that shows where the timing's supposed to go. for all of these things. Shows where the timing for this goes. Right now I need to fish the belt back in here, so you kind of fish it in by fishing it around behind this plate. I'm just going to clean that plate off to make sure I get a really good reading. I actually bent the plate up a little bit. One side looked like it was pushed down, so I kind of bent it up. I want to make sure that that's not actually rubbing on the belt. That could have been my problem from before, why the belt wore out sooner. So I'm going to look at that. I'm going to clean up this up a little bit more. There's still some crud down in here. Clean this up and I'll come back with anything of note. Really hard to show this under here, but what you need to do is you just need to fish the belt behind this plate and kind of fish it around. You know, obviously don't let the corners of it stab or cut your belt. Fish it in there, and I have a feeling my tension on this little belt was the problem, and that's why she broke. Let me try to get this on here and see what's up with the tension on this thing. Alright, quick update here, and I apologize for the strobing light from my headlamp here. So I've got this little guy in here. I got to tighten the bolts down. Clean off the surfaces of this piece here so you get a good, you get a good signal. This piece did get damaged when the belt broke. It was bent in, so it was actually catching this belt. It was catching that balance, the counterbalance belt. So I kind of very carefully bent it out a little bit. I mean, just barely bent it out, because obviously you can't bend out and catch on the timing belt. It's got to be right in between those two. So again, this looks like kind of a really poor design. Let me go ahead and see if I can get this all together. If there's anything else, one of the things, I'm not sure I had this tight. To be really honest with you, it might have been my fault. I got her really good and tight this time. I pried up in here and got this belt. She's taut. I mean, just there's no give to that belt at all now. And I don't think the last time I did that I got it that tight. There is timing marks on this. It's really important that you get right. So look online for those timing marks. The timing mark on this one, on the main one, is like right up in here. There's a little notch. This one, the little notch is on the crankcase, and the same thing over here. There's a little spot for this, for the front shaft. There's a spot for it here also to line up. So anyway, I'm gonna keep putting this back together. We should be running here pretty soon. All right. Belt is on, all the timing marks are lined up. I'm reinstalling this pump. Basically just undoing everything that I just did, or redoing everything I undone. Anyway, I'm going to clean up the spark plugs too. They were a little oily down in there when I took them out. I'm going to clean those up, make sure they look good. Maybe I'll throw a new set of plugs in it, and then we'll get her fired up. The cover was a little beat up. I hit it with the plastic welder here. This was cracked. Hit it with the plastic welder here. Some of that was from the belt breaking. Some of it was from me not being careful taking it apart. But she's good enough. Let's put her back in there. Alright, so I'm trying not to skip around here too much, but it's a little hard. You just kind of want to get it back together. So I did get that pump bolted back in. I've got down here, I've got the sensor. Can you see that? Okay, I got the sensor back in. I've got the tensioner in, bolted in. All the belts are in. I played around with this spacer that sends a signal. Got that all back in shape. I think that might have been my problem. That and the tension on that small belt. So everything is tight under here. I am going to put the engine mount back in place first. Then I'm going to put the cover back on, and then I'm going to put my belts back on. the serpentine belts, and then she'll be ready to run, except for that I want to clean up the plugs first. I want to check the compression again on at least one cylinder, make sure everything looks right, and then we'll fire it up. She is all back together. Coils in, everything. I took a compression reading so I could show it in my video. Oh, gotta put this guy back. Put him back over here. Engine mounts back in. I could have let the engine down, but I haven't. It's still, well, got the car jacked up because I have the wheel off yet. I gotta put the cover, the water shield under the side. But let's see if she runs. A little more confident this time than I was the last time when I did this, but then again, I broke it. Let's see if she fires up. Check our engine codes. Okay, I erased the crankshaft position sensor code. Here we go. Alright, I'm still getting crankshaft position sensor. And I don't know why, because that's a brand new sensor. Alright, it's the next day. So, I did a whole bunch of reading last night. Was a little tired and frustrated that it's not running. And really, the only variable here that makes sense is the crank position sensor. Because that tells the engine that it's cranking and to turn on the fuel and the spark. Alright, it's the next day. Alright, I'm sure someone else caught earlier in the video. I had that sucker installed upside down. It has to fully envelop that, or surround that blade when it comes around. I checked it in both directions and made sure that it clears, because remember I've been bending on it a little bit because the thing had been malformed. It clears both directions, and now I'm going to put everything back together. Yeah, I had her upside down. Someone else in the forums mentioned that last night, and sure enough, she's upside down. Maybe this cheap rock auto part, nothing wrong with it other than the idiot that bolted it in here. All right, let me get this all back together. All right, I'm gonna crank it just to see if it starts. I don't have the belts or anything on it. Obviously the timing belt, but I just want to see if I have spark. And I'm just gonna turn it. If it fires, then I'll put everything back together. Oh, I can't believe I had the sensor on upside down. Talk about an amateur move. Perfect. Back together she goes. Oh, all right. Went and had a brunch. I hadn't eaten yet. Let's get this all put back together, and then I can enjoy the rest of my weekend. Well, she's running and driving again. I'm sorry I really didn't show, some of the detail there that I did in my previous video. I'll put a link maybe up here at the top and go back and watch the last time I did the timing belt. I'm fairly certain that the last time that I did it, that I did not get that tensioner belt on those counterweights tight enough. I think that's what caused the problem. So anyhow, my old beast is back up and running. Hopefully I can make it a little longer on this timing belt set. Don't install your sensor upside down. It has to straddle that plate. So that should have made sense to me when I did it. Fortunately, I only had to take part of it apart to get to that. But if you've got to take the entire sensor out, if you've got a bad one, you've got to have the timing belt off. You can't sneak it by there. I kind of tried because I was going to put a new one on there, and then I realized what I did. So anyway, hopefully I don't have another video having to work on this for a while, other than I did notice I had the wheel off. She's probably going to need brakes here sometime soon. So anyway, thanks again for following along, liking, subscribing. Thanks for all the people in the Mitsubishi forum that really, kind of, had some questions and encouragement and whatnot. But yes, I am very lucky. I'm going to go buy a lottery ticket. Thanks again, everybody. Take care, and we'll see you in the next video.